Hello and welcome to Out of the Blue, a brand new Chelsea fan podcast. Today we're breaking down that heartbreaking result last night in Paris as Chelsea lost 5-2 to PSG, drama at Wrexham in the FA Cup last weekend, and looking ahead to Newcastle. I'm Teddy and I'm joined today by Harry.
Hi, how you doing?
And David.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me, gents. I'm aware that it's going to be maybe not the most upbeat of pods, and it is a brand new pod, so I'd like to maybe just grease the wheels a little bit with something positive, like brand new pod, all three of us together for the first time. I'd like to start with something positive like, what's your best Chelsea memory so we can think some rose-tinted glasses before everything gets maybe a little bit more dour. Harry, do you want to kick us off?
Well, hopefully you don't have to go too far back, but further back than I'd like to probably. Cole Palmer against United at home last season, was it? I was actually going to leave that game early, like on the 92nd minute or whatever, and I was like, actually, let's stay. And then he scored from that corner, and then there was a penalty, wasn't there, or something like that. So
Is that the one where he scored
pure jubilation?
At the start of stoppage time, we're a goal down.
Yeah.
At the end of it, we're 1 up.
Yeah. Dreamy.
Beautiful. I think in terms of being in the stadium, I think the Champions League Ajax game, where I think was it 5-4 in the end or 4-4? We basically brought it back.
Oh, and the Reece James
scored off the corner, knee slid right in the corner in front of us. We had the Aspi goal as well, which got ruled out for offside, which was actually the bigger celebration. But that gives me hope that we can do it again.
That game always
One day.
That game makes me think more than anything. I was at uni, and the next day playing for my social football team, and we were 7-0 down at half time. I was going, go on lads, we can come back. And we only lost 7-3, so I feel like the moral victory was ours. But to bring us back down to earth a little bit, last night, lots of emotions, a bit of a roller coaster. David, what's your initial reaction looking back on last night and the 5-2 loss?
It's a tricky one. I feel like obviously the main takeaway is slightly terrible. And I think the big swing is it being 5. Like, I think 4, morale was low, but there's still an optimism where it's like, you get back to the bridge, we can control the game better there. We might be able to, like, you scratch 1, all of a sudden the crowd knows you're 1 away, you get some momentum. The last one going in, I think, is what may have killed us. And to do so in a way that, I know I've been chatting to a couple of people about this, of whether we should have sat back a bit and protected it rather than going for it, and I'm still torn on that. I don't really know.
Did you feel we did go for it?
I think so. I think when you're at 74 minutes, it's 2-2, right, before Jorgensen passes the ball away, and I feel that we were possibly the better team up to that point. Like, I'd say it's pretty even ground. I wouldn't say that we were necessarily in a hole or anything. And so I think at that point, when the mistake gets made and you go 1 goal down, but you know it's by player error, I understand the rationale of being like, well, we don't need to change anything because
it's salvageable,
that's a freak accident. We can keep it going.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, like that you say about that difference of the extra goal, that number 5. Like Matt Law put an article out today as we're recording this about how we're in the same position as Tottenham. And like he says, Chelsea are as bad as Spurs. And I remember reading it and being like, what? And then kind of thinking about it and being like, yeah, it doesn't really matter about the way the game's played out. I've had loads of people message me in group chats today who didn't watch the game being like, 5-2 is pretty dour. And it doesn't matter that if we were the better team for 75 minutes or for however long. The result that matters is the scoreline. It's the only stat that matters. And I think it's kind of something that I really wanted to get into a little bit more. Did we deserve more from that game? It's certainly in the stats.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I guess like the order that the game plays out in, like it is genuinely like the Spurs result in reverse. Like they started the game horribly and then kind of salvaged some kind of, not pride is a strong word, I think, when it comes to Spurs, but like, you know, they managed to save face a bit and batten down the hatches and managed to grind something out and score 2 goals, whatever. And I guess if you look at the Chelsea game, you know, we scored 2 goals and did very, very well, I think, for the first 70 minutes, and then it all fell apart. And, you know, I guess there's more hope in that kind of circumstance where you have an expectation and suddenly you build some confidence and belief and it all comes crashing down, versus the Tottenham way where it starts awful and then you can't really actually get anything back other than, I don't know, a couple goals. But I don't really see it looking back on it, in 2 weeks' time or whatever, I don't think anyone will see it any different, really.
And what do you think was the turning point then? Because I think for me, watching that game, we've said it there about we felt like we were in control for lots of it, despite the scoreline, despite the fact we were always chasing it. At no point did we lead in that game. We were always trying to equalise, chasing PSG. We're taking the advantages. But what was the moment that turned that game? Because you look at the XG, and I've seen lots of people bandying it about today, the fact that we had 1.78 XG to their 0.98, yet somehow they've come away with 5 goals. What did we not do last night that PSG did?
I think, not to dial down on specific people necessarily, but I think even before going into game, the Jorgensen pick is the big discussion point, right?
Yeah, as a moment, as a turning point, wasn't it?
And it really felt like it, because you can see the team's a bit frustrated. Obviously, as fans, you get a bit, right, okay, we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot here. I think after that, even seeing that from like the 46th minute, they had 4 shots and there were 4 goals. That tells a maybe more accurate story about the game, in that, like, you look at 5-2 and it's like, okay, you've been taken to school, really. But
they were so much more clinical, weren't they? It was every time that we were in attacking position and the ball was moving forward and there was space out wide, or even when that Gusto chance came up where he put it away, whether it came off the keeper or whatever, but even when the ball goes out to a Chelsea player in that position, which should be nailed on goal, I still feel this is 50-50 whether we actually get a goal out of this. Whereas on the flip side, PSG get in any kind of position or not like a half chance, they manage to convert it. They're so much more clinical.
But Dembele's goal, case in point, it's a great ball into Palmer, and I think Cole Palmer a season ago, 99 times out of 100, we're backing him to bury that. And it's a good effort, it's a good save. But I couldn't believe watching that, the way the game suddenly turned on its head, and it felt like we were the dominant force, suddenly a goal down.
Yeah, but that's also like a bit of a hail back to the Pochettino era, I think, like when every match was like a basketball game and it was end to end. Like, certainly through, say what you want about Maresca, but if we lost the ball in that position on the pitch, there would always be reinforcements back and we would never be like highly at risk in that position. Whereas I don't know if you feel the same way, but the last few games, I've definitely felt like they're just committing bodies forward. They're trying to throw the kitchen sink at it, which I like to see in a Champions League game. Don't get me wrong, but we were so overexposed in that moment.
It's a good point, because I think it's the signs of Rosenia. Obviously, is a decent manager, I think, and has had some European competition with Strasbourg. Obviously, they've been pushing forward in the Conference League, but it's kind of an evident sign of him learning on the job as well. Like, this is his first Champions League knockout game. It happens to be against the defending champions. There's obviously, you as a new manager as well want to win your fans on side by being like, no, we're going to peg them back.
Yeah, it's also a team that he's played against 8 times already in his managerial career. So kind of should know better potentially. But
then also has beaten them with a lesser team. So he obviously has something in mind or some plan to go for it. And I'm relatively on side with the idea of their player quality is so high. Like, their front three, like we said about being clinical in front of goal, they're all dynamite players, drastically better than our wingers. With that in mind, if you are to go back to the conversation of should we try to protect the lead, bunker the game up, I think if you're giving them so much of the ball, you're going to get hurt anyway. If both their first 2 goals, or the first goal at least, was in our box with 9 players around them. It doesn't necessarily make a difference if you're just going to sit back and give them the ball, you'll be fine. So I don't mind the idea of being we have to keep them on the back foot to stop them coming at us. But I do think there's definitely a point of you can do that to a slightly safer degree and maybe not have your centre-backs parked on the halfway line and everyone else forward.
Well, you said it there about Rosenia, the fact that obviously first European Champions League knockout game against the reigning champs, you're already fighting a bit of an uphill battle there, despite Club World Cup heroics last summer. And we mentioned there about Jorgensen. We all kind of did this collective sigh about that when the team sheet went out and going, and I can't quite understand how. I've seen loads of pundits, loads of people on Twitter saying about the difference between us and a quality team is our goalie. And I know that I very strongly believe that Sanchez has been one of our best players this season. I can't really understand the rationale ahead of putting Jorgensen number one. And Peter Schmeichel even said to CBS before the game yesterday that he had it on good authority that Jorgensen has been told he is number one. Is that the real big error that Resenja made yesterday straight away more than anything? Because
it's easy to say that, like, hindsight's 2020, isn't it? And I don't know if you feel the same way, but within like Chelsea fans that I know, and speaking about the Sanchez Jorgensen situation, like the main benefit of Jorgensen is that he isn't Sanchez, rather than he's better at anything or we prefer him in any way. It's like, okay, Sanchez had an absolute shocker against Arsenal, therefore we'll stick Jorgensen in. I feel like Sanchez has done his time and then some on that. Like, drop him for a game by all means, but to take the number one shirt off him, you know, for the rest of the season feels a bit strong and a bit firm. And I don't think that Jorgensen has earned it by any means. However, again, first 70 minutes of the game yesterday, Jorgensen looked absolutely like super comfy back there. Like, the touches he was taking, he was sending strikers for a hot dog. Like,
he did look confident, but in the first 5 minutes, he gave the ball away straight to PSG, and even they highlighted it on the comms in the start of the second half, where he takes that nice touch away from the PSG attacker. You can see him hesitating, kind of going, am I going to do this? And obviously part of that is like the only times we've seen him in the first team have been when Sanchez has been suspended for his red card at the start of the season in the United game. And I do wonder if, as much as Resenja has been touted as this incredible manager, that is the ultimate stage to put somebody in. And you've already been touted as, oh, he's the better ball player, he's better with the ball at his feet. And ultimately that was his undoing last night. Like, the pass that he put straight into Barcola is with his weaker foot. I've watched it back several times today, and I cannot work out where he thinks that ball is going to go, which is a viable option. And same with the goal that is then given offside, which would have made it 5-2, which is Talavia in no man's land. I kind of just like, I can't understand the rationale of dropping a keeper like Sanchez, who has done so well in the reverse fixture as well. Lots was made of the fact that neither team was thinking about the Club World Cup, but surely a performance like the one he had has to mean something.
That's bollocks. I think like they were all thinking about the Club World Cup, and it's tricky, isn't it? I think Sanchez probably would have made the same mistakes. Like, it's the style of play that they're being told to play, and it's, you know, Maresca was, you know, constantly requoted what he was saying about Sanchez as if he plays the ball long, I'll drop him. And like, that was a constant threat that was lauded over both of our keepers for a year. So, you know, I don't think this is really any different or out of the ordinary really for Chelsea. I'm feeling quite jaded as a Chelsea fan since Kepa to now, like, still talking about keepers having howlers like week in, week out. Like, it feels so avoidable.
It's tricky, and I think our biggest issue recently has just been like we've been our own undoing. Like, how many times do you watch a game? I can't really remember the last time that we lost and I feel like we've been completely torn apart, or like we massively deserve to lose the game. Like, we always seem to have somewhat of a foothold, and then it's a silly red card, or it's a mistake at the back, or a keeper mistake.
We're setting fire to points, as Rossini would say.
Exactly. Well, I think we've lost the most from winning positions, or we're up there. Like, it's been terrible. And I hear what you're saying about Sanchez would have made the same mistakes. I think that might be true, but I think he may have also done better on a lot of the goals, because I think for me anyway, his best attribute is his shot stopping. And the whole Jorgensen argument for me comes down to, like you're saying, the first 70 minutes looked comfortable on the ball, obviously had some great moves playing out, did lose it once or twice, but for the most part was good. For me, I'm not sure that his ability versus Sanchez on the ball is enough of a positive to outweigh what I think are worse qualities off the ball.
Hard agree with that.
And that's what it comes down to. And I understand Resenja's position is probably right. PSG are an incredible team. They press super high. So to break that press, we need the better ball player. But they are also incredible players. And you give them an inch, they're going to get shots off. Like, Kvaratskhelia has got 5 players around him, still wraps his foot around it. Obviously, I can't say with perfect accuracy, but I do think in my heart of hearts, seeing him this year, like Sanchez maybe gets a bit closer to those. I don't know if he saves them or not, but It's
Yeah.
a bold decision for sure to swap them out, and especially in such a big game, because if you believe that Jorgensen is your new number one, obviously I don't know what inroads Schmeichel has into the Chelsea dressing room, but if that is correct, if that is correct, and Jorgensen is your man to go forward, it's also a bit of like a baptism of fire to give him the starting spot in probably our biggest game of the season. Like, let him build up to it. Sanchez.
Yeah, I don't think he's demonstrated like masses of confidence either when he's been trusted in that in that kind of setting. And like, I would like to see Sanchez back in for Newcastle on the weekend. I'd like to see Sanchez play the return leg. Sanchez, there's that clip going around on social media of Sanchez after the Club World Cup when they're asked like, who do they want to face in the Champions League this year, and he's like, give me PSG, man. Like, let's make sure there's no excuses.
Well, even like on the social media thing, did you see last night about Jorgensen at the end of the game? Yeah, and it's Reece James has become prolific. I feel like for no matter the result, he's always clapping the fans, and sometimes the only player doing so. And if you've not seen the clip, for anyone listening or watching, straight away he goes to Jorgensen, go and clap the fans, and Jorgensen ignores him and walks straight down the tunnel, and it's Sanchez who then goes after him and makes him come back out and go over to those fans. And I wonder if part of it there, take out the mistakes and we just think about the positives, is there a mentality issue there of going, maybe should have been protected more, or at least it shouldn't be Sanchez, the guy who's vying for his spot in the team, having to get him to come back out. And I think it's indicative of something bigger there that you mentioned there, Harry, about the fact that we are setting fire to points constantly. And I feel like they touched on it on the comms on the game yesterday a little bit, that whether that's our game plan or not, to play out from the back, have the extra man in possession with the keeper, there has to be a point where you learn, you're mature enough to go, we need to work outside of the plan. Okay, we've got no options. We're going to go long. It's if all else fails. And it feels like something that we just continue to lack. And I don't know if it's an inexperienced thing, but the player who typified that for me last night was Trevor Chalobah, who I will always sing his praises. He was
passed so easily, wasn't he?
But exactly.
He lost.
But he 2 goals. The second one, where it's our attack, you watch the way he presses so high and lunges in, completely misses it, and then whether Fofana should stop him or not, he's already on the back foot. And then same again with that goal right at the end. You watch Chalobah sprint up the pitch and just throw himself. Even if he gets anywhere near the ball, if he takes out the man, it's a red card straight away. And that's our most consistently played member of the back four. Like, no injuries this season. Suspension aside, he's been in every single team. And clearly they have been told to press, but it does feel like this side lacks the ability, lacks that voice, whether it's got to be Reece James, Caicedo, Enzo, to turn around and go, play the situation, whether that's experience. I don't know what you guys think.
I think press from the front. Like, it was a very different proposition where it was like, last season where it was Gallagher and Palmer going after every defence in the league like some two-headed dog, absolutely on one. Like, and then now we're pressing from the back and we've got Chalobah jumping. Like, our whole style of play going forward is based on passing it around the back until the other team jumps and then catching them. And we're falling for the exact same trap in reverse. And it's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I have a bit of a... Chalobah for me is like, I really like him. I would always keep him in the squad. For me, that's more indicative of like where the club is as a whole, where he's a fantastic player, but for me, is not at the level that should be starting for us if we're wanting to compete in the competitions that we are.
But he's proper Chelsea.
And he is proper Chelsea. And honestly,
but that's not enough.
That gets
Quite
him,
frankly.
that buys him a lot of grace. But for me, his biggest issue, I think he's a solid all-round player, but it is moving at the wrong times. Like, I think he's got previous of it, and I was saying in a pub before the game that Fofana's obviously made some mistakes as well this year. But if I'm picking between the two, I'd take Fofana just because I think his athleticism is such a massive boost versus Chalobah. And I was saying about his biggest thing is just jumping out and losing sight of the game. And while obviously everyone makes mistakes, and again, like with Jorgensen, you don't want to pin it on one person. I think for the second goal, it's criminal to be essentially the last man back, be next to your man and fly in front and leave him in his own half free, because then he's got 60 yards to run into. And on the fifth one as well, you see it, he flies in way early. And
it was happening way earlier than that as well. It's not like it started happening late on in the game when he was knackered or he wasn't thinking straight or whatever. Like,
no,
he was getting passed again and again and again and looking like totally out of sorts. It was
we see it every week as well.
I don't know if you remember the City one. I can't remember if it was the first game this year where they countered, similar situation, and he's with Haaland, but instead runs over to Tosin, who's already got the man, just to stand in front of him and leave Haaland through on goal. So
if it's Tosin, you would.
Well,
you?
yeah,
I was about to say, I was just waiting for Tosin to come on last night and it to be 6 or 7.
It might have been him. I can't remember exactly who it was, but my point is basically that there isn't really a Marshall at the back or someone to actually get people contained and get them in line.
And switching your keeper out is not going to help that in any way.
No, precisely, because a lot of time that comes from the keeper. And I will preface this as I'm a Bob Sanchez truther. I think he's come leaps and bounds. I like him a lot. He was on a real player of the season charge for us up to this, which again makes the switch even more baffling. But I also think he has a slight degree of like partial delusion where he thinks he's better than he is, so he will step up a bit more and shout at people and do stuff. And from what I've seen, obviously he's not been given much time in the team, but Jorgensen seems a bit more meek, and that he's not going to scream at his back line to fix up and take charge.
It's funny you say that because there's a tweet that's gone viral today, which I couldn't believe how viral it went because it was so wrong. And it basically said, this is classic. The issue with the selection tonight is that Jorgensen thinks he's Manuel Neuer, whereas Sanchez just realises he's Rob Sanchez. And I couldn't agree more with you. It's so wrong. And you could see it in Jorgensen, like saying about the hesitation and the decision-making. I think a key player who's had a run of games doesn't feel the pressure to put in those passes on his weak foot, takes the extra touch, or puts it long, puts it out. We saw it with PSG when they kicked off the game. They highlighted it in the pre-match, the fact that they do these sort of rugby kicks to start the game.
So weird.
But it's the trying to take stock of the game and go, if we can be in their area from the start, that's more valuable than having possession in the middle. Or if we can get rid of the ball and have it on the halfway line, that's better than us playing around our own box. We've talked a lot about mistakes there in the game and building up to it in the first and the second goal. But I just wanted to cotton in on one moment, and it's a real buzzword in the fan base at the moment, a word I'm sure that both of you are sick of, and it's indiscipline. And this is a hot take of mine, that the whole game, that we said it, all the commentators were saying it, the fact that at 3-2, we were not out of the tie. And I, for what it's worth, I don't think we're completely out of it. But at 3-2, it did feel like we could come back to Stamford Bridge next Tuesday and have a real good go of the game. Rosenia makes the subs he does and takes off Palmer and João Pedro, and that's negative in some ways because of Romeo Lavia, who's only had a little run out at Wrexham last weekend, and Delap, who can't hit a barn door at the moment. But Neto pushing that ball boy and everything boiling over.
Hazard Mark II.
Yeah, exactly. Although I think the ball boy, his theatrics were even better than the Hazard one who started AU Vodka now. But
he's killing it.
Neville did say that Neto's got a shade of Hazard, so maybe he saw the vision.
But I did kind of think that, I remember watching that last night and just thinking, this is the moment it all falls apart. And it was. Like, it felt then, we were kind of then waiting, is Neto going to be sent off? And there was that kind of, okay, no, we have got it. It's back into scramble mode. And everything felt wild and frenetic. And for me, that's the moment where you need your Reece James or Rosenia, because it was all happening on the sidelines, to go, stop and breathe. Make a decision based on the situation of the game right now, and whether that's playing things out the way they did too defensively. I just feel like it's going to be something that we keep saying over and over and over again, whether it's the same things we said with Maresca, now with Rosenia. We lack that senior voice. We lack that leadership.
It's true. And to be honest, I have to say that I've not been as on board with the blanket idea of like, you need an over 28-year-old to come in and show the players how it's done. Because I understand that like experience is important. You need a calming voice there and someone who's done it before. I used to push back on it more because I would say, while we have young players, some of them have been so ahead at their age that they've played more games than someone who is 26. Or like, you take Enzo Fernandez, has won a World Cup, obviously not as the main man in the squad, but like they have experience in big games. But I think the Neto push is also just indicative of, I think, what we're facing with this new team, and it's something that we used to rely on a lot in the glory days, so to speak, is knowing that you've done it before and just having an example of being able to see it out, or turning around a major result, or something that you can really look back to and be like, we don't need to let our heads go because we know we can do it. And I think the longer we take to get that, the more this is just going to continue, because they have nothing to fall back on to be like, and maybe that's a manager problem, that he's got to again instill it into them to be
he needs to solve it, doesn't he? But like, I don't like you say, I don't buy into the whole like you need a senior player on the pitch. Like you just definitely need someone with playing experience that's close to the team. Like if Thiago Silva or someone like that was in the backroom staff, then I think it probably would be a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that Neto push, I definitely don't think that was like some indicative, like massive head loss. Like, oh my God, we're losing the game. Let's go and push everyone. Like the ball boy was being same as the Swansea thing. Luckily, he didn't kick him like Hazard did.
I know.
There's a reason Neto didn't get booked for it.
Yeah, exactly. And straight away, like he did all the right things. Like straight away, apologised, like made a fuss over him, mentioned it in his post-match interview. Like he dealt with it in the right way, and I don't hold anything against Neto as a result.
No.
Like it's just one of those things, and it's a massive occasion, and shit happens. But yeah, I definitely think there is, like you say, there's like a leadership, not void. I think Reece has stepped up massively, and I think Maresca first came in and said Reece needs to do better, and that I think was quite sobering for a lot of Chelsea fans to be like, right, there actually isn't that guy there at all. Like we thought that he could be that guy, or we thought there was stuff going on behind the scenes that we weren't seeing. And actually hearing it from Maresca, it became clear that that just wasn't part of his personality, and it's clear to me that he's worked on it a lot. And I think Rob Sanchez being on the pitch, maybe there's another voice that's loud. Maybe Colwell, if he's fit, it's a very different story. Like there's a lot more leadership. There's a lot more cool heads that are around. But I wouldn't say that would make a massive difference to the way Neto behaved in that moment, really.
Well, to turn things around a little bit, and instead of looking back to last night, let's look ahead. Tuesday, second leg at the Bridge. Are we out of this tie? It's a big mountain to climb, and 3 goals is a lot to overcome. But are we out of it?
I'm never going to say yes, because at the end of the day, I'm a football fan and I support the team. Like that's kind of the nature of it. I think it's very, very difficult. I think the odds are majorly stacked against us, but it's not like it's not ever happened before. We've had big results in Europe where we've come back. I just think we'd really have to sharpen up in like a lot of areas, and like a lot of the stuff that we've just spoken about. Like you have to erase all of that, because if one bit of head loss happens, or one mistake at the back, or a keeper mistake, then it's done. Like then there's no coming back.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I also think like there is recent history that would suggest, I don't know if you agree with me, but like we do turn up for big games like massively, and I think like a lot of the indiscipline or a lot of the issues or a lot of the slip-ups have happened where there's been an expectation on Chelsea it's been a walk in the park, and it's not. Reality hasn't quite followed the same trajectory. So I do think like masses of pressure at the Bridge, big game, Tuesday night, like I do back us to do something. Stranger things have happened. And I think also like it's hard to look at this as like an isolated incident. You know, City have the exact same result to try and overturn. Tottenham have the exact same result to try and overturn. Like 3 English teams at home, all chasing a 3-goal deficit. Like, hopefully one of us will win, because it would do wonders for the Champions League prospects going forward.
It's not something great. Like we're all celebrating like 6 out of the top 8 of the Champions League were English teams, and then they've all been battered.
Yeah.
It's been a mental 48 hours. Everything has come crashing down. But I think there's something in that, though, and about Stamford Bridge, saying that stranger things have happened. I kind of feel like, and I don't know if this is that kind of wonderful thing about sport of loving the underdog. I think the fact that everything is stacked against us, and I think everything is kind of, it's the perfect free hit for Rosenia to go into that dressing room and go, this PSG team has beaten every English team it's come up against in the knockout rounds the last 5 years. They've put 5 goals past you. They are the top scorers in the tournament. No one is expecting anything. Go out there and change the game completely. Play without fear. And I think that's something that I really did take away from that second half a little bit before everything went Pete Tong, that to zone back in on Pedro Neto, a player who, it's abundantly clear to me he has quality. He has real top quality assets as a footballer, pace, the ability to hit a ball so well. And we just don't see that. We don't see him take on players. But yesterday in that second half, for that goal, when he gets past the man, it's the first time I've seen him just go, I'm just going to take you on for pace.
I think Neto is one of those, like, he's a perfect example of one of those players that looks like he's being managed to within an inch of his life. Like, he's being so carefully instructed. Every time I watch him, I feel like his nature is telling me that he should be doing something else, and then he's checking back. Or I find it much more frustrating to watch Neto at Stamford Bridge. Like, watching him live when you're in the stadium is way more frustrating than watching him on TV. I don't know if you guys agree, but like, you watch him on telly and you think he's having an absolute blinder. Like, he's playing a really good game. He's doing all the right things. He's not losing the ball. And, you know, I love this guy. He's our, you know, first name on the team sheet at times. And then you watch him at Stamford Bridge and he's got acres of space in front of him, and Enzo's got the ball at his feet and he can ping one, and all he needs to do is get on his bike and there's no one round him, and he's standing still and he's still within his half and he's not doing what you feel like he should naturally do.
He's an interesting one because, again, I don't know how much of it is just poor decision making versus management, and I imagine it's probably a mix of both. He's an interesting proposition because he has these flashes, like you say, where you're like, oh, that's a top level player. And I know the goal you're talking about, the turn of pace, just like he has a little burst and then accelerates out of nowhere, goes past the second player.
But I have not seen him unleash like that.
Yeah.
But that's also, like, it's half the reason you buy him from Wolves, because like he's made a career of being faster than most players and carrying the ball
When he's not injured.
Well, yeah, and but he's actually stayed miraculously fit. I'm surprised. He's just a strange one though, because I've also seen him more times than I'd like not get a pass and throw his hands up and go on a bit of a strop. But yeah, he always does. Well, this season at least, he seems to pop up with some big goals and big moments in and around the messy stuff.
The other thing I think is important for this group of players, like we've said about the fact that they probably did all consider the Club World Cup and having this grudge match, because it did kick off at the end of that game. That's a match where we put 3 goals past PSG in the first half. Everyone loves to highlight how we are such a young team. There are no leaders. We are the youngest team in the Prem, the youngest team in the Champions League. The second youngest team in the Champions League is PSG. They've had loads of the same injury issues that we have had because of the Club World Cup. Dembele's had 2 major injuries, only just come back. Vitinha's been out for long periods. Fabian Ruiz is out for the season. If we're going to beat PSG, this is the time. They lost to Monaco 3-1 in the league last week. And clearly, there is a fear element with Chelsea, hoodoo, whatever you want to call it, because they've requested this game, their game this weekend, to be postponed. Which
crazy, right?
Say what you like about it.
Can you imagine us calling Newcastle and being like, lads, just take a breather.
Well,
Well, then we appealed after the Club World Cup. We like Chelsea and City both appealed to the Premier League, saying we've had a mad summer, we played loads of games, we need a bit of rest, that we need to have a proper pre-season, and the Premier League rejected it, right? And that's, I think, as much as I wanted to have some time off. Not that I'm a player or anything, but as much as I would have liked to have seen the players have some time off.
Chelsea break.
Couldn't handle it. Needed a break. But as much as it would have been good to have seen the players have some time off, like, it was the right thing to do. Rejecting that, like, it shouldn't infringe upon the league, and the French league seems to work differently.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's crazy is, as well, Nantes are in the relegation zone. It's not like they're going up against a team battling them at the top of the league. And if I was Rosenia, I'd be going into that dressing room going, they needed to delay a game where they could play their B team. That's how much they need the extra rest for you guys. So turn up for that fight. Before that second leg, though, there is the small matter of a big game on Saturday night against Newcastle. How important is this game? It feels very easy to get lost in the Champions League excitement. How important is this game for the rest of the Premier League? It's very tight in the top race for the top 4, top 5. We're not sure.
I think, well, they're all important now. This is the issue that we have, because you can't really take any time off. And I think for me this season, the biggest issue has been the difference between our first and second teams. The quality drop off is staggering. Even though some of the players in there are good individually. They just clearly aren't gelling particularly well together. And that's okay when you're up against a Wrexham or a team from another division in the FA Cup. But Newcastle, also their biggest strength is being physical. They'll play through teams. And if we're not up to it, we will get struck down, I think.
Yeah, big time. And I think also like last season, we obviously had that like first string, second string kind of way of rotating the squad. But our second string squad still had quality going forward. I don't know if you agree, but like this season, all of our debutants that have come in that are deputising for first team players are super defensive. Like we don't have anyone with real attacking pedigree. Like Gittins is injured. Sure, he might be the only exception. And Delap, who, like you say, is like, doesn't look like he's a footballer at all. Maybe a rugby player, but...
Also, we've got no real cover for Palmer, and our attempt at fixing that was a 3-month loan of Buonanotte. So it's it's not exactly exciting viewing when we go into those games and rotate players. So like we have to go full strength against Newcastle, which is also why Palmer and JP come off at PSG.
Yeah.
Which also harms us a little bit because, again, the drop-off is quite steep.
Barcelona have done us a massive favour by getting that equaliser.
Yeah.
Because now Newcastle will be thinking about that quite heavily when we're worrying about PSG as well. So,
do you think we make changes though? Because it is important. I think we mentioned it there that Newcastle are a very physical team, and against Barcelona, they made a few selection choices that might have been peculiar to somebody just observing from afar, like not playing Visa or Voltemada in favour of third choice Asula. I feel pretty certain we're going to see one of those guys up top. Do we make changes considering the game on Tuesday? Do we bring in a Jarell Hatto, for example, at the back to try and rest legs like Cucurella's, who all had to play extra minutes last weekend as well, mind? It's a different kind of game.
I actually think that Hatto is one of the few players that could slip into the first team fairly easily.
Yeah.
Like, don't mind seeing Hatto get a run out whatsoever. It's good to see Lavia getting some more minutes as well. Like, I'd like to see him play more. Obviously, everyone wants to see that. But as we were saying, like, zero trust in attacking players that aren't like those four.
Yeah.
Like, if João Pedro's not on the pitch, we are going to struggle to link up play, run in behind, pin any defenders back. Like, anything that you want from the front from any of your front players, João Pedro does it all. And he's one of the few players that does it all. So unless we've got Garnacho and Neto absolutely legging it down the wing and making the fullback's job really, really tricky, I don't really see us having much threat other than through JP.
And it's terrible timing for, I mean, not in the immediacy, but just Esteval still being out is a huge loss as well. Because I think even with him just being slightly fit, going into the PSG game would have helped us massively, because if he gets a half, it gives you rotation options. It lets you look at Newcastle with a different lens, because that I would feel more assured about both the games. And I don't imagine he's going to be back for Newcastle or the second leg. I think he's still a bit of a ways away.
He changes our shape massively, actually. Like, this is the other thing that's tricky when you're analysing Chelsea and talking about Chelsea, is that like what really works really well one game doesn't work at all the following game. Like against Villa, I was like, Garnacho out left and Gusto providing the width on the right. That's working really well. Like, beautiful balance, love it. And then obviously it wasn't exactly the same against PSG, but Gusto on the right was totally the wrong proposition. Like we need to have someone with legs that plays in an advanced position on the right hand side to provide us some balance, which we just totally lacked. So yeah, Esteval coming back can't happen soon enough.
It's a good question, and it will be quite telling of where Rosenia's head is at, I think, in the selection for Newcastle, because if he goes full strength, it might be easy to read into the fact that he sees the PSG die as mostly gone. And it's, why would you sacrifice 3 points in the league, which is incredibly highly contested at the minute, and Champions League, getting back into the Champions League is of massive importance.
What would you prefer?
It's tough. I mean, I would love to say, yeah, we'll go to the bridge and we'll turn it over and have this crazy show, but I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in that basket, just because of the reality is that PSG are an incredible team. And I think Newcastle are a bit of a weird one as well.
Because they can turn up.
They keep flittering between being really bad and then suddenly finding momentum again.
You look at their last few games, there's wins in there against the likes of United and then losses at home to Brentford. They're a different team each weekend. But I think it is important to recognise the fact that a bit like us, Newcastle turn up on European nights. We're in a much better position than Newcastle, who are battling for the top half. They've also got a very big week ahead, like we do. Champions League next week, as well as the Tyneside derby on Saturday. They've got injured legs coming back, the likes of Livramento. They're going to be trying to rotate players as well. And I was surprised to see that we've actually won the 11 of the last 12 times they've come to Stamford Bridge. It's a good fixture for us. I think the one thing there that I do worry about, we've said about the B team and the difference of last year of that clear quality that we had in both teams. And looking back a little bit further than last night to last weekend and the Wrexham game, as if it wasn't enough drama for 1 week, are there any bright spots in a game of extra time, full time, the likes of Neto playing 100 minutes? Are there things in there that we can take as positives?
I will say, and as much as we've bashed him, rightly so, since we've been here, like that I think was a better game from Delap. I can't remember if it was the first or second goal, but him picking the ball up in the middle of the pitch, holding off his defender, turning him, bringing the ball up, putting it wide, and then the box goes in and we score. The ball goes in and we score. That is a lot more of why we signed him.
Yeah, that's what he's there for.
That's what he's supposed to be doing. I think he's
not a right winger.
No, yeah, exactly.
Definitely not.
No, exactly.
If he comes on the right wing on Tuesday night, then we're really in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, he's championship player, isn't he?
Well,
championship opposition. Maybe that's where he belongs.
Have you found your level? That is the question. And like, he's still young. Obviously, he's come from Ipswich. It's a huge leap up. It's a totally different style of play. All his goals were running on the transition because they had 11 men in their box.
And he played all the minutes, and he's not getting that opportunity at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And if it may well be a different story if he played week in, week out. He might be improving, and coming on leaps and bounds and be a very, very different player now. Because at the beginning of the season, when we bought him, I don't know if you remember, but like people were talking about Delap as if he was, the next Harry Kane elect. Like he is the next England striker. Once Harry Kane retires, he'll step into that position and he'll go. And like, I didn't really buy it when I heard it. I didn't really fancy him that much last season. And I think the £30 million release clause and United being interested is actually what, in a very Todd Bowley way, I was like, well, they want him. He must be good. Let's get this guy.
I like it as a move as a deputy.
Yeah.
And I think this is our issue in that, like, we've been very lucky the last few months that like JP's found his form and looks genuinely incredible. That's fantastic. But I think again, it's just it's looking at our kind of recruitment strategy and where we are as a team of like what is our level of like player quality, because you obviously want a stellar first team, you want players you can rely on. But
we do. But to the ownership,
this is the question.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because like everything that we've seen is that they're not that interested in building an all-star first 11. They're interested in investing in projects that they can increase the value of by 15 mil and then sell in 18 months.
And I think that's part of the issue, is because if you had got JP and you were like, okay, we see something in him, which has been proven correct, and it's like, fair enough, I wasn't massively sold on the transfer at first, but won me over. But if that is your plan, then you would expect your backup striker, you'd go for a bit more of a seasoned player, someone that is probably comfortable and used to just coming off the bench, shoring up the game, getting some opportunities, but also like knows when you give him the opportunities, he knows what he's got to do. The problem is when your backup players are also 21 years old, also need time to grow and aren't getting it, you throw Delap in the mix, and like you say, that he's not played any minutes. There's nothing for him to grab onto.
Where's Grant Holt when you need him?
It's funny, the narrative, and I feel like this is kind of like being a Chelsea fan at the moment, week to week. The narrative is changing so quickly. We've seen that across the season. You say there about the start of the season and the histrionics about, Liam Delap is him, and he's the future. When he got injured against Fulham, it was when he comes back and he can play in the 9 and João Pedro and the 10 behind him, that's when it's going to click. And obviously, if you said that now, you'd be laughed out the pub saying that to other Chelsea fans.
Well, I think also because you want to play João Pedro in the 10, you want to play Enzo in the 10, you want to play Palmer in the 10.
Yes, yeah.
How many 10s can you have?
But even to that point of the narrative changing, I think we do need to recognise that whether it was a hard watch last weekend away at Wrexham, that was a difficult game for the attention that was on it. We are through to an FA Cup quarter-final against Port Vale, a favourable side of the draw in that regard, potential to go through to a semi-final. before that 75th minute against PSG, we were really in that. And I know that football is decided by the scoreline, but there are positives to take away. And I feel like we could have easily, if we had shut that game out, we wouldn't be talking about the lack of quality on the bench, the likes of Kvaratskhelia versus Delap. And I do stand by the fact that I would like to be hopeful for next Tuesday, more than anything, because I will be singing my heart out in the shed upper all game long, regardless of what happens. But boys, I am hopeful, and I'm so thankful for you joining me today, David and Harry. Thanks for coming on this first episode of Out of the Blue. It's been a pleasure.
It has indeed.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.